So normally I stand amidst the hardware to introduce the topic of the video, but as you can tell, today there's legitimately no room for me because this is by far the highest end machine that I have ever built, and the hardware barely even fits on the table. But what is this build for? Linus, you've been teasing this thing on social media for weeks. Well, inspired by our 2 gamers, 1 CPU build back in whenever the heck we did that, this is taking it to the next level. Michael Bay sequel style. We are doing 7 gamers running off of 1 tower. But before we begin, I should tell you something, and that is that I legitimately don't know if this is going to work at this time now. I mean, we've done some pre-testing. We've got 4 VMs working with, you know, the performance you'd expect from an AMD Radeon R9 Nano and a quad-core gaming processor. But we have no way of testing 7 until we install all the custom water cooling and get the whole thing assembled. So without further ado, a huge thanks to Kingston for sponsoring this video, providing 256 gigs of their kick-ass DDR4 ECC memory, providing 8 1TB SSDs so all those gaming VMs have nice high-speed storage, and for demoing this machine at their booth at CES 2016. So if you're there at the show, definitely go check it out. You can see it in person. Let's get started. So it's 24 hours later, and if I look like I haven't slept much, it's probably because I didn't, but it's totally worth it. It's working. So I'm going to take you guys through the journey, now that I know that it's successful, of how we created 7 gamers, 1 CPU. It starts, I guess, actually with the CPU, or I should say CPUs, because there isn't a CPU on the market that could deliver a full-on high-end gaming experience to 7 gamers all at the same time. So our system's equipped with 2 Intel Xeon E5 2697 V3 processors. So these are 14-core processors that are clocked at up to 3.6 gigahertz when they're turboing as high as they can, and they actually have hyperthreading as well, for a total of 56 threads, meaning that each of our VMs has 4 cores and 4 hyperthreads, just like you would if you were running on something like a Core i5 or a Core i7 normal desktop processor. For our motherboard, obviously, we needed something that could hold both of these CPUs and 7 graphics cards. So the Asus Z10PE D8WS is one of the only standard form factor boards that would fit in like a gaming case that is capable of carrying 7 GPUs, 2 sockets for the CPUs, and that can hold all of the RAM that we need. And it's got some other key features as well. So it has a VGA output for our Unraid console. It's got enough SATA ports for us to throw in as many SSDs and hard drives as we pretty much want. It can handle a total of 12 out of the box. And it's got an M.2 slot on it, which could be useful in the future as like a cache for the array. On to RAM. Actually, Kingston hooked us the crap up for this machine and sent us, because we could only have 8 sticks of memory in this board, they hooked us up with 32 gig sticks of DDR4 ECC RAM. What that means is each of our gamers can have 32 gigs of RAM for a zero compromises gaming experience. For the case, we went with a Case Labs S8, and we did this for a number of reasons. So first and foremost, actually, is that pretty much nothing else on the market was going to work for us. So we needed something that supported our extended ATX motherboard, and this one has an optional tray available. And in addition to that, because there's lots of server cases out there that would support this motherboard, we needed support for water cooling. So it's got lots of room for radiators, pumps, reservoirs, all of that good stuff. Not to mention it's got room for all the hard drives we need, and it's got a full aluminum construction, so it's actually fairly lightweight considering all the hardware we have in there. And personally, I think it looks pretty badass with the selection of windowed and mesh panels that we chose for our particular rig. Not only that, but Case Labs also hooked us up on a sweet black and orange powder coat paint job that I think looks fan-freaking-tastic. For our power supply, again, we didn't have a ton of choices because doing quick napkin math, I figured this rig was going to pull anywhere from 1500 watts or more from the wall when it was under max load. So EVGA hooked us up with their T2 1600 watt power supply. Yes, my friends, it is 80 plus titanium and capable of a continuous load of 1600 watts. And then, to make it look even more badass, Cable Mod hooked us up with a black and orange cable set to just kind of trick this baby out, and even some custom cables so we could run single 8-pin connectors to each of our video cards, making the whole thing come together just, man, that's beautiful. And I'll tell you how close I was to that 1500 watt number a little bit later on in the video. Now, I've water cooled a lot of systems before in the past. I have never done one with this many blocks before. Fortunately, as far as the CPU went, it was really straightforward. I really like EK's mounting mechanism here, so we're using their Supremacy Evos with nickel tops to match some of the other nickel accents in our system. And the GPU block's actually fairly straightforward as well. Too straightforward. It's kind of therapeutic for me, water cooling systems these days, because it's like, you know, that's my old hobby, like it's relaxing for me. But after 7 GPU blocks in a row, I was definitely ready for a new challenge. And fortunately, that's exactly what was waiting for me. EK custom designed and manufactured this 7-block connector slash splitter thing that went on top of our GPUs, effectively transforming them into a block of 7 graphics cards that could be installed in one fell swoop into all 7 of the PCIe slots on the motherboard. This was the only way that we were going to be able to fit not just a bunch of graphics cards into a system, but a bunch of high-end gaming cards into a system. Which leads us, I guess, to the radiators, because you gotta cool a bunch of high-end gaming cards in one system, so we went with 2 of their high-end, super thick XE series triple 120mm radiators, and then we're using my LTT edition Noctua fans to cool them. And then the original plan was to use one D5 pump connected to one of their reservoirs and mount that in the front. That didn't end up working. I actually had a number of challenges and things were overheating, and I was trying to turn the system on, and I ended up actually having to add another pump to the system in order to get this baby working, because we're talking 9 blocks, right? 2 CPU blocks, 7 GPU blocks to make this thing happen. So let's talk about those GPUs. That was another careful decision for this system. I originally planned to use something else entirely, realized it wasn't going to work because even though I could get single slot blocks on them, I couldn't adjust the back plates, and they had display interfaces in 2 of the slots. So I was going to go with the Theory X, and then I realized, oh no, that's going to draw too much power. There isn't a power supply on Earth that's going to be able to handle 7 of these. So the AMD R9 Nano saved my bacon. The efficient gaming card that thermal throttles, unfortunately, with its stock cooler in a normal size case. Yeah, we took care of that. All GPUs, all the time, no throttling, high-end gaming card, super efficient, and something I didn't even foresee. Because the card is short, I'm actually able to get at the PCIe locks so that I can remove the cards from the system in the event that I need to do that. Any other card, and I probably wouldn't be able to pull the cards out. So at the end of the build, I actually realized Kingston's our sponsor for this, and I didn't have mounting adapters for my SSDs. So I went for the double-sided tape, bippity boppity boop. I made a stack of SSDs in the bottom that I actually think ended up looking pretty badass. Booted it up. It kind of cycled a few times. I experienced a moment of unparalleled despair when I thought that, okay, we went from, because we originally tested it with 4 GPUs, we went from 4 GPUs kind of working to, oh no, 7 doesn't post. And then it turned on. We needed a few BIOS tweaks to make this happen. Over 4G decoding, setting the default video output to the onboard video, making sure our boot device was the USB drive for Unraid, and then it was off to the races. In terms of software, truthfully, we didn't have to do a whole lot differently from 2 gamers, 1 CPU on the software side of things. We are still using Unraid to manage our pooled storage, so in this case it's 8 of Kingston's shiny new 1TB KC400 series drives, running in a RAID 10 for hyper reliability and enough speed to run 7 freaking computers off of them at the same time. And then we had to do like this funny, you know, guess and check thing for assigning keyboards and mice to VMs, because a lot of USB device manufacturers don't correctly label them. So we just had to kind of unplug and plug things in and run around and move them around. So we got this whole thing working, and then, well, okay, there were a bunch of other problems, but I'm not going to bore all of you guys with that. But I will tell you about one cool trick that we used to save some space on our SSDs and make room for more games and applications for each of our gamers. And that's a snapshotting-like feature of ButterFS that allowed us to create one of our virtual hard disks and then clone it kind of like a shortcut in Windows for all of the other 6, so none of those files get replicated. And what's cool about that is even if you delete, you know, this file or that one, the file system is smart enough to know not to actually eliminate the data so that everyone can access it. Very, very cool. So if one person uninstalls a program, it doesn't uninstall it for everybody. Which leads us finally to testing. It works. Thank goodness it works. Not everything is possible for me to capture, unfortunately. Some of our GPUs are not reading their temperatures correctly. There are some quirks. But I can tell you guys this, our idle power consumption is 250 watts. Yes, our idle power consumption is as much as a mid-range gaming machine under load, and our load power consumption from the wall is 1500 watts when running 7 instances of Unigine Heaven, which you guys can see going on behind me. And I have another cool fact for you as well. We actually got 3D Mark Firestrike scores that were 800 points higher per VM than we did running the cards air-cooled. Yes, my friends, that is the power of custom liquid cooling. So, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Other than to do a quick, I'm actually surprising my camera operator with this, but I'm going to do a quick proof that it is all real, my friends. All right, so we sat through the incredibly boring intro cinematic for Crysis 3, and this is it. This is the real deal gaming experience of the 7 gamers, 1 CPU machine. And you might ask yourselves, well, Linus, why did you go to all the effort to put all these 34-inch Predator X34 monitors on here? Because what I wanted to demo was that you can't just have a gaming experience 7 times on this machine. You can have the gaming experience 7 times on this machine, my friends. We're talking 3440 by 1440 ultra-wide IPS, and yes, that frame rate counter in the top right is accurate. This game is running at anywhere from about 60 to upwards of 100 frames per second. And all my instances, if you want to just look up, all my instances of Unigine Heaven are still running in the background. Woo! Look at it go! Look at it be smooth, baby! Not a hitch. Except for that I just ended up in the same room that I started in. It doesn't make you any better at games, unfortunately. So thank you for watching 7 gamers, 1 CPU, a demonstration of what the technology is capable of, however impractical something like this might be. I mean, I don't expect any of you to run out and build a system that costs literally as much as a decent brand new car for something like this. But if nothing else, it is proof that we have the technology. Thanks again for watching. If you disliked this video, hit the dislike button. But if you liked it, hit the like button. Get subscribed. Share this video with all your freaking friends. Come on, how cool is this? And maybe even consider supporting us by using our Amazon bookmark to shop at Amazon, instructions for which are up there, or maybe up there. I don't know where they're going to put it. Even supporting us directly through the form or buying a cool shirt. No, I'm wearing some Origin shirt today. Well, whatever. Not going to worry too much about that. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out all our other cool videos. If you haven't seen 2 Gamers, 1 CPU, make sure you check that out, because that is where the inspiration for this all came from.